You can't live in Trout Lake without noticing there's a mountain in the backyard. In fact, that is what brought Monte Pearson's family there in the 1880s. Few people live in a pristine mountain valley where snow melt kisses the ground with its sweetness, and even fewer live in the house their grandfather built. But this is the life of the Pearson family. The Pearson family carries on the traditions and culture of those who have come before them. Winters in Trout Lake, Washington at the base of Mount Adams are severe. Snow can come as early as October and stay until April. But the climate was a big factor that drew the original homesteaders of the 19th century to this area. They discovered in the mountainside valley an echo of the Scandinavian villages where they grew up. Monte Pearson is a third-generation dairy farmer. His grandfather Charles immigrated to the United States from Sweden at age 12. Working his way west at logging and railroad construction camps, he settled in Portland. When he discovered nearby Trout Lake, Washington, he fell in love. Remembering the mountainous beauty of his homeland, he thought, "This is Switzerland," and decided to settle there. Mount Adams, the 12,000-foot tall volcano that stands in their back door, has given them a strong connection to the natural landscape and ceaseless taste for adventure.
I've probably climbed Mount Adams 50 times. I've climbed a lot of the other Cascade peaks as well.
I've climbed Mount Adams more times than I've kept track. I lost track at 25 times. And some of the other mountains that I've climbed are Mount Hood, Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens. So kind of the three main ones in Washington and Oregon.
Monte and Laura are outdoor enthusiasts.
We took our children up to the top of the mountain when they became 12 years old. That was their something they look forward to.
My dad was 12 when he climbed the mountain for the first time, and so he made it a tradition that when all of us four siblings were 12 years old, that would be our special time to climb the mountain.
The mountain is over 12,000 feet high, so it's not a technical climb, but it's not easy either. I didn't want my kids to have a bad experience, and so I wanted them, first of all, to anticipate the trip, and then once they were up there, not to have a miserable time and get halfway up and decide they couldn't go any farther. So we always figured, 12 years old, if they're in decent shape and are really looking forward to this, they can make it if they want to.
When I was 12 years old, it was my special year to climb the mountain with Dad, and so we'd work hard on the farm, and then for our vacation, every summer our family would go on a week backpacking trip, and that was a really bonding time as a family. Climbing a mountain or doing a section of the Pacific Crest Trail. And seeing that accomplishment was very rewarding and bonding as a family. Working at something together and spending that quality time together on the trail. We'd walk down the trail and we'd sing songs, and we'd always have good family devotions on the backpacking trips and stuff like that. And we did have backpacking trips that during the times seemed like terrible, but you look back and camping in the rain, getting lost, forgetting the matches. One of the most memorable things that went wrong on our backpacking trip was when we forgot the matches, and so Dad decided he'd hike down the trail and see if he could find someone that had matches that we could borrow so we could build a fire and cook our food and get some sustenance along the way. And so he took off, and he was gone, it started getting dark, and we started worrying about maybe he wouldn't find us on the way back, and so we took some of our tent string and tied it across the trail, and so he would know where we were camped. And so he came back after a while. He'd found some matches and came back, and he didn't find the camp, but he found the string and and tripped on the trail, and so we heard him and went up and you know, all those things you look back and it's like, oh, we overcame that challenge, and that was a great experience. And yeah, so really good memories of growing up and hiking and camping and mountain climbing together.
The year it was going to turn 2000, they decided they were going to be the first ones up the mountain. This is our oldest son's idea. He got his other younger siblings to do this with him, and a couple other kids. And they headed out. It was a nice night, but they got part way up the mountain and the storm blew in.
Yeah, Y2K, you know, we had this big idea of being on top of Mount Adams and watching all the lights go out, or watch the mushroom cloud, or, you know, so we were going to be up out of all the trouble and watch while everything fell apart down below us. And, you know, winter is not the best time to climb a mountain. And
they couldn't hardly see at all, and the wind blowing, and their beards were frozen, and eyelashes were frozen.
You know, we were young and foolish and thought we could handle anything, so we got up there and found ourselves in a blizzard.
And it got down 30 below, probably with the wind, and they decided that they better build a snow cave and get in it. And so they dug a snow cave and got in there, and it stormed most of the night.
So we dug in and spent the night in a pretty strong storm up there on the mountain. And
they decided this was probably going to be the end. They confessed all their sins, and our oldest son, who is the spiritual leader with the kids, had them all praying and
preparing for the life to come. And, you know, we were fighting snow and wind and, you know, all night long. And at first light, you know, you couldn't see anything because it was light, but you put your hand in front of your face and you could hardly see it because the snow was just blowing so hard. And
about 4 in the morning, they said that let's make a break for it.
And so you couldn't really tell, you know, which direction was which, but I had been up the mountain enough times that I had a pretty good sense of which direction to go. So at first light, you know, I said, you know, we just gotta, you know, pick up what we can and just get out of here. We just got to get down to some better shelter. And so
they roped up. They left most of their things there. And Travis,
has a built-in compass.
Well, we think he has a built-in compass because
everyone followed me, and we got down to the trees, and then out of the howling wind, and we could tell where we were. But God spared us, and we were able to make our way down. And
he actually got that group down off the mountain in a storm. He brought them right down to the parking lot to the car, and we thank God, and they were all praising God that they made it down. Because they went back the next summer and found, oh, there's my ski pole, oh, there's my pack. That was one thing they said they would never climb the mountain again in the winter. So, and they haven't. I think it scared them enough that they don't want to go through that. Travis, over the years now, has guided a number of trips up with groups.
You know, I still climb it once a year. I've been taking a church group up once a year. It's fun just to meet new people and let them experience some of the things that I've experienced on the mountain. And
Monte Pearson is somewhat of a legend in Trout Lake. He holds the unofficial record of climbing Mount Adams in 1 hour and 50 minutes.
During my early college years, we always thought it was fun to just go up and see how fast we could do it. Whenever we climbed the mountain, we'd come back and say, how long did it take? Well, it's 3 hours and 50 minutes. So there was kind of a built-in incentive to come back and be able to better the record. So I had a friend who was quite competitive, and every time he'd go up, he'd do it one faster than me. And so I'd have to go up and do it one faster than him. And we went back and forth that summer, probably 5 or 6 times. And I ended up climbing the mountain in 1 hour and 50 minutes.
As far as anyone knows, that record still stands, though it's not published anywhere. The Forest Service doesn't like to keep those kind of records, potentially encouraging what Monte says is irresponsible behavior.
We really found that hiking around the mountain was more of an adventure than climbing the mountain, and we took our kids around the mountain in 2 different trips when they were, our youngest was probably just 4 or 5. She carried a backpack with a roll of toilet paper. Everybody had to carry something. But over the years, well, I went around it in one day. I'd never heard of anybody doing that before, and I just wanted to see if I could do it, so I did it.
And then we got married. Our first year, we went around the mountain together, and we made it in a day.
It took us 14 hours, maybe. It was a long, long day.
40-some miles.
But since then, we've created an eco-challenge course out of it. And so for a number of years, Dad would put together a team, and then each of the kids would put together a team, and we'd compete as teams to see who could go around the fastest. We all start at the same place at the same time, and you could pick any course you wanted to get around the mountain, but you had to stay below 8,500 feet elevation. And so we had different courses, different strategies, and the record time now is 8 hours. It's amazing. We start at Bird Creek Meadows, and from there we go cross country down into a canyon called Hell Roaring Canyon, and we cross 2 streams and go up the other side and drop down into the Klickitat River Canyon and cross the Klickitat Glacier. Yeah, one of the places you pass on the way is through the Avalanche Valley, which is about as close to the Garden of Eden as you get on this earth. And then there's the mountain, and it covers half of your view in one direction. Just a beautiful spot. Well, we climb out of there and cross over the base of several glaciers, and go by mountain lakes, and take a swim on the way.
Avalanche Valley is about our favorite spot, and when we have taken our time around the mountain, we have camped there and stayed there at Avalanche Valley. And you can actually hear the avalanches coming down off the mountain, and so it's just a beautiful place to spend some time.
Fathered like son, Monte decided to take up sports his son Travis enjoyed, like dog sledding.
Yeah, well, living in Trout Lake is many people's idea of just, you know, the ideal place to live, but winters are long, and sometimes they're sloppy and cold and not much fun, unless you've got something that you can do in the wintertime. And we did downhill skiing for a few years until that got too expensive, and we did cross-country skiing until I went down some hills that Laura absolutely said no way, no more. And we wanted to find something to do in the wintertime that we look forward to. And our son had a friendship with a local family that had sled dogs.
And he said, hey, you should come over to this race and run a couple of my dogs in the ski race. It's skijouring.
Which is hooking himself on cross-country skis to one or two dogs. Did that competitively and did it well. And
they pull you and you ski at the same time, and you do like a 6-mile loop. And I thought, this is a lot of fun. You know, you're working with animals and training them to pull and to know their directions, and then you get to work hard too, and so it's kind of a, you know, you're working with animals, but you're working hard. Kind of goes along with farming there a bit, and so I got a couple dogs and started skijouring some races, and then one thing leads to another, and then I found myself having a whole team of dogs, and then started. I did a 100-mile dog sled race, and I don't know how they do the Iditarod 1,000+ miles, but that 100-mile dog race was a hard trek, and I think the Pearsons have something for hard work. And
so I did it once, and we used our old cow dog, and I actually won a novice race. There he is right there, taking his snooze.
Our faithful dog.
Cody. But skijouring is also sometimes terrifying. If you're coming down a hill on ice with two dogs hooked to you going 18 or 20 miles an hour, you are out of control. And so we tried using a sled, which has brakes and that has some feeling of stability.
Dad just like, wow, that looks like fun. Looked like he had a lot of fun. Even when I dropped over dead tired, and it's like, wow, that's a lot of fun. So he decided he'd get a few dogs, and one thing leads to another, and pretty soon.
And we really liked that. So we took up sled dog racing, and
pretty soon he has a dog team, and now he's racing dogs. And
we currently have 12 dogs, and I've entered a few regional races and done well, and Laura likes to go along for the ride sometimes and always helps me feed the dogs and hook them up, so it's a good family thing together. My dogs like to run though, so if they either hear me coming in my pickup or hear another Dodge pickup go by, that's their sign that the fun is just about to begin.
Don't ask me why he does that.
Now come about October, we say, when's it gonna snow? We were
You gotta get the dogs out. When Travis first started, he'd had 2 dogs, and in the off season he would train them on a bike or a scooter up in the hills. So, and then Monte got 2 dogs, and they would, Trout would say, "Dad, you go this way, I'll go this way. We'll see who gets here first." So they were both on their bikes going through, and it teaches the dogs to gee and haw and whoa. So they had a good time going up in the hills, trails with their dogs.
Dog sled racing bears the Pearsons' courage, hardiness, and love of animals.
Well, we really do understand how unique our situation is and how blessed we are to live where we do and have a family a part of our lives and living close and being able to see the fruit of generations in the past coming to bear on generations into the future.
It may be of no surprise that Monte's name means mountain, because he's kind of a mountain of a man, not in stature, but in the way that he lives his life, loves his family, and the way he operates his farm.